It's 9:30.
Okay, good morning, everybody. Let's call the meeting of the Western Municipal Water District Board of Directors to order.
We're not hearing you,
Oh.
Mike.
My red light's on.
Let me look.
On. Can you hear me now?
I show them all muted.
Can you hear me now? Hello, hello.
Okay, we're good
Okay.
now.
All right.
No.
We'll try that.
Can we turn him
Good.
up?
Okay. Trying again.
There we go.
Good morning. Let's call to order the board meeting of the Western Municipal Water District. Tammy, would you please do a roll call?
Yes, thank you. Good morning. Director Torres.
Here.
Director Denstedt.
Present, good morning.
Good morning. Director Roten. Director Risby.
Good morning, I'm here.
Good morning. President Gardner.
I am here as well. Thank you.
Thank you. President Gardner, you do have a quorum today.
Okay, great. Thank you. This morning we're going to be led in the pledge by our controller, Peter George. Good morning, Peter.
Morning, directors. My name is Peter George. I'm a controller with Western Municipal Water District, and I've been with the organization now for about a year and a half, and very happy to be here. Thank you.
We're happy you're here too.
Appreciate it. Thanks. So if everybody can join me in reciting the Pledge of Allegiance. Ready, set, begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, Peter. Thank you.
Thank you, Peter. Brings us to public comments. Tammy, do we have anybody in the room or online?
We do not, President Gardner. I've received no comments and have had no requests to speak.
Okay, thank you. Anything to add to the agenda?
Nothing to add?
Okay. We have two action items this morning. The first is
President Gardner, could we go back to the consent calendar?
Oops. Sorry. I did. I skipped right past consent calendar.
I'll move consent. I'll second.
Let's do that. Okay. Discussion? Anybody want to pull anything? Okay. If not, Tammy, when the system is ready, would you please do a roll call vote?
Just one moment. Director Torres?
Here, oh, yes.
Director Denstedt?
And here. Aye.
Director Risby?
Aye.
Director Gardner?
Aye.
Thank you. The motion carries 4-0.
Okay. Now we'll go to the action agenda. Our first item is to consider an increase in the lab sampling budget for Babcock Laboratories. Mr. Miller.
All right. Thank you, President Gardner. Albert is here to do a presentation. As you know, Babcock is our contract laboratory, and we have lots of sampling that we have to do. We make an estimation in the budget of what we think we're going to need for the year. So Albert's going to explain a little bit why we've had some additional lab requirements. Albert?
Thank you. Good morning, directors. For your consideration, staff are recommending the board of directors authorize the general manager to increase the existing purchase order with Babcock Laboratories by $77,900 to a total value of $200,000. Due to the increased sampling, staff is asking that the purchase order be increased to ensure adequate funds are available to cover the sampling costs through the remainder of the fiscal year. The primary drivers behind the need to increase the existing purchase order are related to PFAS sampling throughout the district, as well as increased sampling within the Marietta service area. With that said, I'm happy to answer any questions.
Does anyone have questions?
Maybe I'll just add a little bit to Albert. The Marietta service area, you'll recall that we've been kind of fighting with sediment and other things, and not other things. The sediment in the line, which is it's not a health issue at all. It's really aesthetics. And with our Northwell project and trying to eliminate that from the system, we've been doing a lot of sampling all over the system to verify which areas are clean, which areas we have some more work to do. So it's all part of our Marietta program that we've been doing this.
Okay, any questions? Tammy, any public comment?
We have no public comment.
Move
Not-
approval?
No?
Second.
Okay. I'll let you pick who was the second, Tammy. And when you're ready, please do a roll call vote.
Director Torres,
Yes.
Director Denstedt,
Aye.
Director Risby,
Aye.
President Gardner.
Aye.
Thank you. The motion carries 4-0.
Great, thank you. Our second item is to consider increasing the professional services contract and budget for the McKinley grade separation. Mr. Miller.
Yeah, Derek is here today. We talked about this in committee. Complicated project. There's a little bit of, we're kind of the tail of the dog on this one. It's a huge project for the city of Corona to build this, and our sewer relocation is just a little part of a big project. So Derek's going to explain what our portion is and why it's changing.
Good morning, directors.
You're
I'm
good.
just checking it's on. Okay. Good morning, directors. We're revisiting the McKinley Street grade separation project. This is a key initiative by the city of Corona to construct a 4-lane overcrossing above the BNSF Railroad and the Arlington Flood Control Channel. This project is crucial for addressing safety and supporting our community's growth. From Western Water's perspective, a significant component involves relocating our wastewater facilities within McKinley Street's right-of-way to accommodate the new elevation. As utilities in the public right-of-way, we have no prior rights in this area, so we have to bear the cost of those adjustments. So we kind of come along with the larger project. Originally, our board allocated $1,470,000 for initial design and estimates. And after we received a higher than expected bids in November of 2021, we adjusted the project budget to $2,148,000. Due to material procurement delays and other challenges, the project's completion has been pushed from early 2024 to the end of 2024. Necessitating a further budget increase to $2,880,000. This update covers extended professional services contracts and capitalizes on previously unaccounted planning and related expenses, ensuring an accurate and financial reporting and cost allocation of the project's life cycle. Despite these delays, primarily due to the project's complexity rather than the contractor's shortcomings, we've managed our sewer work to avoid impacting the critical path of construction, underscoring our commitment to fiscal responsibility. We now seek the board's approval for the revised budget of $2,880,000 and amendments to our service contracts with Dudek, Kimley Horn, and Falcon Engineering. The capitalization of past expenses to reflect the overall project cost along with this capital project. We have visitors with interest in this item. In the building, we have George Litzenzer of Dudek. He is doing our construction management. And also online, we have Ahmed Faki of Falcon, and they are essentially working for the city of Corona, but we have a contract with them to also help with the construction management. And Cameron Kurdeshi of Kimley Horn, who is our engineer of record. And both of those individuals are on Zoom. They are available to if you have any questions. I appreciate your support as we continue to address these challenges, and I thank you.
Maybe Derek, you could also highlight the question that came up in committee about the recommended actions don't add up to the budget request, which is I'll just give an overall philosophy, and Derek will give you some details, but. Remember, the recommendations that the board is approving are for actions that are requiring board authority. There are actions that don't require board authority, such as capitalizing the costs that need to be in the budget, but we don't need an approval from the board to do that. So it's not always a simple addition between all of the actions adding up to the budget, but Derek has more detail, I think, than what I just gave.
Sure.
But it was a good question, and I think when you look at the recommendation, it seems like, well, this should all add up, right?
Right, and in addition, what we did was, at the very back of the board letter, there's a couple of tables. Originally, we only had one table, which was pretty detailed, and has a number of numbers. It basically shows the original cost, the additional cost, and then we did an updated total cost. And so when you're adding up all those together, you know, you want to make sure all the totals are adding up. So what I've done is I've added another table, which breaks down where the additional costs are coming from. And so you can see the percentage breakdown of each category, and then you'll see that it adds up to the same number that's in the table above. So that's a good check and balance, making sure that all the math is working out. And it also gives you some insight as to where these increases are coming from.
Any questions?
Yes, since that was originally my question. Derek, can you give a brief little tidbit on your table on the line 18 with the green numbers?
Sure. So essentially there, what I'm flagging there is an additional cost. It's a request for additional contingency. So as we go along in the project, we'll use
Sorry. Just for the record, what's line 18
Sure,
and what are we talking about
Sure,
here?
I'll go ahead and
Not everyone has that table in front of them?
sure, I'll enter that into the record. So basically, there's a table that has those costs. There are 20 rows that are in that table, and they basically have a description of each of the project cost. Primarily, it's by the contract or the POs or some line item within the budget, like staff time, SCADA integration, things like that. So each one we have on there all add up to a grand total, and that's the subtotal of the construction cost. Just below that, Director Denstead is asking about line 18, which is a project contingency item, and it basically says in parentheses 10.3%. It's in green. And that is also, the number is $68,261, again in green. What we're doing there is we're requesting a contingency adjustment, because during the project we ask for an initial contingency, stuff comes up during the project, we use up the contingency, and so we're asking to reset that contingency so that we don't have to come back to the board for every little item, and we can handle it within the project. Of course, it's contingency. We're getting towards the end of our portion of the project. We're about 85% complete. Most of the stuff, all the hard stuff's behind us, so I don't anticipate using that. Nevertheless, we don't want to go into the end of the project without any contingency, because what will happen is if we do have something come up, we don't want to hold up the project seeking authority for that.
Thank you, and that was the response I was looking for, so I appreciate that, and I hope all of our consultants and folks understand this is something we don't want to tap into any further. You're no change order girl. I don't like change orders. I like to stay on budget, on project, on time. So thank you for that explanation, and that will conclude my questions, Mr. President.
Okay. Any other questions or comments?
No, move to approve.
Okay. We have a motion before we move on. Let me just see if any of the contractors who are physically present or on Zoom wish to say anything. It doesn't appear that there are questions of you at this point, but we're glad to be working with you, and this is a chance to speak if you would like to. We appreciate it. Thank you very much.
And that was George Letchenzer of Dudek.
Yes. Okay, any other comment? If not, we are ready for a roll call vote when the system is.
Director Torres?
Yes.
Director Denstead?
Aye.
Director Rizvi?
Aye.
President Gardner?
Aye.
Thank you. The motion carries 4-0.
Okay,
Thank you,
great.
directors.
Thank you very much. Thank all of you in attendance on this. Brings us to reports, Mr. General Counsel.
Good morning, President and board members. I have nothing. Thank you.
Okay, Mr. General Manager.
Okay, I've got several. As I reported last time, lots been going on at Metropolitan. So rates and budget were adopted for county year 25 and 26. We were very active up there in making comments and working with our coalition. We didn't get everything we had hoped for, but I think it was a major win that we got an increase in ad valorem revenue for Metropolitan, which builds fixed revenue into an environment with varying sales revenue, which really helps for the future. And I look at it as a really positive step for Metropolitan. Director Denstead has her own comments she could make. She may not be as enthusiastic. I think Western wanted more share of revenues to come from ad valorem, but the environment up there with 26 member agencies voting, there was a lot going on. So I think it's really a good step that they did double the ad valorem, and there was certainly a lot of opposition to that. So I look at that as a vast improvement, and Director Denstead may choose to share in her comments later about Met. So what was approved was doubling of the ad valorem to .007 as a revenue stream. The rates were set at 8.5% increase for the first year and 8.5% increase for the second year. However, that's a melded rate, and you've heard this before. The treated water rate is much higher. We only buy treated water. So our rates are going to go up 11% and 10%. There was a huge push by all the agencies that have to buy treated water. Some agencies have a choice. They can buy untreated or treated. We don't have a choice. There's 15 agencies that buy treated water. I think all 15 have coalesced very strongly around the fact that that's not fair, that we're bearing a huge burden of these increases for treated water, and it's called the treated water surcharge, which was not, it did not benefit in the way that Metropolitan calculated that out. It did not benefit from the increased fixed revenue from the AV adjustment. So we want to see that changed. What Met has said is that's all going to move into the business model discussion, which is going to start next month. So I have more on that later. But the budget is behind us at Met. Now the chore is for our finance team, how do we incorporate that very large increase into our rates and charges and our budget. So the board will hear a lot about that. We're going to budget workshop. Our first budget workshop's coming. We have 3 scheduled. Hopefully we're going to approve budget the first meeting in June. So we think we've set up plenty of opportunities for the board to ask questions if you're not sure about how this is all working. One tool that we do have, and we will likely utilize, is a pass-through. So when we approve our rates, we have a pass-through provision. So if one of our water suppliers increases their rates, we can pass that through to the customers without having to go back through a 218 hearing and readopting our rates. So obviously the Met rates would qualify for the pass-through. So what we're thinking about is we'll likely have a pass-through of those rates when they're adopted in January, not when they're adopted, when they're implemented in January, because we don't change our rates in January, we change them at the fiscal year. And so we can do a pass-through, and that'll allow us to change our revenue so that we can accommodate Met's increased rates before we have to actually go through a rate adjustment. So that's kind of the financial picture, you know, because hopefully you're thinking about, well, if they're raising it 11%, what does that mean for our customers? And how do we accommodate that? Because we're not changing our rates right now. So yeah, we're going to have 6 months of the pass-through of the, will accommodate in the pass-through for the first 6 months. So that, I think that's, I don't know if that's good news, but we have a way to handle it without us having to go back and modify our rates, and do a 218 hearing with the public. The second part of that story is this business model that is going to be debated. I think it's going to be handled as part of the Camp for Water Task Force. I'm not sure. I've been asking, where are we going to have this debate at Met? This is going to be a huge debate. When they say business model, there's a lot of things thrown into the business model. And one of them is, should we have even more fixed revenue? Should the AV be even higher? One of the things that'll be debated as part of the business model is, what should we do with growth? Should Met accommodate growth or not? And Met's mission statement is fully accommodating growth. We're going to provide, I can't quote it, we're going to provide enough water for the future of Southern California. So in this business model, I think the Met leadership wants to have a debate about whether they should change that. It's an enormous change in philosophy for Metropolitan. If you're a growing region, that's not a good thing. If you're a grown region and you don't see increasing demands, they would like to see a change in water distribution. How would that play out? There could be a limit set on a baseline Met supply, and you growing agencies, if you grow, you're going to pay a tier 2 for growth. That's never been part of Met's philosophy. So this is going to be a huge debate at Met, and we're going to be front and center in that debate. Pure water is going to come up as a business model. Should we be building pure water? You've heard Director Denstad say before, I don't know that that's in our best interest right now. I think staff definitely agrees. It's a very expensive alternative. We're at the lowest demands we've ever been at Met. We don't really need 100,000 acre feet of very expensive water put in the Met system. We can buy all the state water project we need right now. So why would we spend $8 billion on a recycled water project? The environmental community is strong supporters of pure water. And they're going to have to prove their case to us and many others that we need that additional slice of very expensive water. It's going to have they talk about the cost of the project's going to be around $8 billion. The annual operating cost is going to be about $200 million. So that's in addition to the $8 billion. That's going to be a big hit to rates, So there's some really, really big issues that need to be addressed in this business plan. So, business model, sorry. So lots going on at Met. It's going to be a very, very busy year, and the Camp for Water is not concluded, so we're going to be working on that too. So anyway, lots going on at Met. Let's shift to our budget. So what should you anticipate? Monday the 22nd is our first budget workshop. We're going to be talking about capital projects. Tim and the team have come up with lots of capital projects. We're talking about 2 years of expenditures, but we're talking about 10 years worth of projects that we're evaluating, because we have to make sure that we have a long-term plan. What's going to be built over 10 years? Well, we're going to, put in the budget too, but we have to have a 10-year plan so we know how to roll these projects in. The team's done a fantastic job. I don't want to say arguing, but there is a huge debate that goes on. Everybody wants projects. Each division wants projects, and we have a great team. So there's a lot of, okay, we'll give a little bit on this, we'll give a little bit on that. And the engineers obviously are front and center in figuring out, well, we have to have the resources to build all these projects, staffing resources, not just the fiscal resources. So what you're going to see presented on the 26th is a very detailed capital spending plan that we have figured out will work. And so we're very much anticipating the board's comments having that discussion. The next two workshops will be about our operating budget. So we've, as you heard at the Finance Committee yesterday, we've adopted a new budget modeling software that's very sophisticated. We're implementing that as we do the budget, so it's complicated. Daisy's done a great job leading that effort. So we'll kind of see the fruits of that effort at our second and third workshop. And the goal is, obvious, as I said before, is to approve it in June. If we find we need more workshops, we can bring it back to Finance Committee, or we can set special workshops for the board if they have more questions and need more answers before we get to that stage of adoption. Other thing, last week I was at the CMUA conference, really good conference. It's kind of a small conference. It's only a few hundred people, and like Aqua, it's a few thousand. Great presentations. Our own Sarah McDonald did an outstanding presentation the last day with her co-panelists. It was all about trust in our industry. And it's really interesting data about how we're trusted. And in the public sector's case, not really trusted very well. And so Sarah's portion of the presentation was all about how Western has worked so hard to build trust with our customers. But Edelman was the co-panelist, and they do a huge amount of data on trust and what industries are trusted and what industries aren't. Bottom line is, there's not a lot of trust in the world these days. So we're not trusted that well as a public sector entity, which always kind of throws me because we do this, we're a nonprofit, and we do this only to support the public. But even the ones that are trusted aren't really trusted that much more than we're trusted. It is really kind of a commentary that people just don't trust these days. But really interesting presentation, and let me think about, we might want to bring that back in some way to the board in some arena, because it was really interesting. I think it would be good as our electeds, who are the public representatives and dealing with the public, to see what the numbers actually show. A little bit discouraging. We have some work to do. So anyway, that's, other thing that we've been working on is we haven't had a lot of presentations in our presentation section of our agenda, so we've got a lot planned. So May 1st, we're going to have Brandon Goshi from Met, so he's going to do outlook of Met planning and water supply. On the 15th, we're going to have Bill Hazenkamp from Met, who's the Colorado River expert, so he's going to talk all about what's happening on the Colorado River and the negotiations, as much as he can talk about. A lot of those are in closed session, but as much as he can talk about. On June 5th, Adele Hodge-Khalil and Adon Ortega are coming out. They're on a tour of all the Met member agency board meetings. So the 5th is our turn. We're Western, we're at the end of the alphabet, so we're always, it seems like we're always kind of near the tail end. I think they're actually at Eastern today. We just had Adele out here for our member agency roundtable, so we just heard from him a month ago, but he's coming back out with board chair to do that on the 5th. That would be great to hear from them. And then on the 19th, we're going to have a representative from DWR and the Delta Conveyance Design and Construction Authority to give the board a presentation on Delta Conveyance, so we can hear the latest on what's happening with Delta Conveyance. So a lot coming up in the next 2 months, so looking forward to all those. Any questions for me?
Yes. Delta Conveyance, who was the woman at Water Task Force that did a huge overview and did one of the best overviews I've ever heard?
That was Nancy Vogel.
Okay.
She is the Deputy Secretary of the Department of Natural Resources. So you hear from Wade Crowfoot a lot.
Yeah.
This is Secretary Crowfoot's deputy.
Yeah, she did a fabulous overview, one of the best I've ever heard, and it would be great if we could get her to chime in and say anything too. So or replay that presentation from Water Task Force would be a really good thing, because she really hit some stuff over there and what's going on and how it's all moving and shaking, so.
Well, okay. So
Just a comment on,
we've-
she did it very plainly, easy to understand for non-water people.
we have two good speakers. You're gonna hear maybe a little bit different perspective.
Okay.
You know, she's with the Department of Natural Resources. This is DWR and the authority who's actually responsible for the project. So we'll get a lot of details. But we do, I don't know, Michael, we have the recordings of the task force meetings, and how would the board access that if they wanted to rewatch?
That was supposed to have been emailed out to all the attendees, but I've
Sarah?
not seen it.
I can share that we do post those videos to our website and then do follow up via email to anyone who registered for the event, whether they attended or not, so that they know they're available and can access that content.
I did not receive the last one, that email.
All right. The second part of the general manager update is water supply conditions. Josh, is that you?
Thank you. Good morning.
Morning.
Hope you're all doing well. All right, I'm happy to give this month's water supply update. Brings positive updates across the board. Maybe we'll start here with the snow survey for April. So on April 2nd, DWR conducted the all-important April snow survey, the fourth measurement of the season at Phillips Station. The survey recorded 64 inches of snow depth and a snow water equivalent of 27 inches, which is 113% of average for this location. The April measurement is critical for water managers as it's considered the peak snowpack for the season and marks the transition to spring snowmelt into the state's reservoirs and rivers and reservoirs. As shown in the bottom table, DWR's electronic readings from over 130 stations placed throughout the state indicate that the statewide snowpack has a snow water equivalent of over 28 inches or 110% of the April 1st average. This is a significant improvement from just 28% of the average on January 1st, so huge increase. On the right side, you'll see a comparison of last April to this April. It's kind of hard to see, but there's a structure with a green roof. And you can see that last year was a record year where the snow reached the roof. In the bottom picture, you can see the glimpse of the green structure on the left. And so this year, we're about halfway up the wall. So very, very good snowpack. Although we did get a dry start to the year, March storms provided a much-needed boost to the snowpack. Throughout March and April, we've seen increasing levels of snowpack. On average, the Sierra Nevada snowpack supplies about 30% of California's water needs. And the impressive aerial photo of the Sierra snowpack for the year reminds us why it's often referred to as our California's frozen reservoir, as you can see there. So now for DWR, the focus shifts to forecasting the spring runoff from this snowmelt. When we take a look at how the Northern Sierra snowpack is tracking, we see that the late start in February, it was late start in February, and then March, and then April, you can see the snowpack from below average to nearly 130% of average. So you can see there in March, it actually finally broke out of the average. When we look at the Upper Colorado snowpack, very similar. It's been mostly tracking average and finally exceeded the average with the March storms, and we're currently at 114%. So another positive there. California's reservoirs are also in good shape, thanks to the record storms in 2023 and again this season. The State Water Project has increased storage by over 700,000 acre-feet at Lake Oroville and by over 150,000 acre-feet in San Luis Reservoir since January 1st. Lake Shasta, California's largest, is expected to be topped off by the end of the month. And this is a major turnaround from where it was just 2 years ago, when the amount of water in the reservoir fell to historically low levels at about 1 million acre-feet, or 22% full at the time. And today it sits at 4.3 million acre-feet, or 95% full. So huge change there. If we look at the big six reservoirs, Shasta, Oroville, Trinity, San Luis, New Melones, and Don Pedro, together they're just over 110% of the historical average for the date. So we're doing really well there. In our local watersheds, we continue to experience consistently above average conditions. It seems like the weekends have been consistently rainy for the last several months, and that would explain Los Angeles, Santa Ana, and Santa Margarita watersheds all seeing over 20% above average precipitation, with over 20 inches of rain in LA and Santa Ana watersheds, and nearly 16 inches in Santa Margarita. When it comes to our local reservoirs, both Seven Oaks Dam and Prado Dam are slightly higher than this time last year and remain low for flood control purposes, but are expected to increase following runoff later in the season. We also see that Lake Matthews and Diamond Valley Lake are at healthy levels, nearly 80 and 90% respectively, and anticipated to continue to increase with snow melt and increased state water project allocation as well. Similar to the Sierras, we've seen some local snow show up in the months of March and April. A bit more snow in March than in April, but definitely a good way to end the wet season. Following a very wet 2023, 2024 started very dry. However, from January through March, we saw above average conditions, and the state water project allocation for 2024 has continued to progress. In December, DWR began with a 10% initial allocation. For Metropolitan, that equates to about 190,000 acre feet for the year. February saw a very modest increase from 10 to 15%, taking us to a total of 285,000 acre feet from the state water project. And last month, the state water project allocation doubled from 15 to 30%, which took us all the way up to 570,000 acre feet. And this was due to the storms in February. We've not yet seen an increase following the April snow survey a few weeks ago, but we're hopeful for another increase considering the March and April storms we've seen. The final allocation is anticipated in May or June. However, the current state water project allocation and the Colorado River estimates Metropolitan supplies to be about 1.42 million acre feet, and their demands are basically balanced at this point with about 1.45 million acre feet. So they've come to a balance, if you will. And given the recent increased allocation, Metropolitan is beginning to initiate or reinitiate some of their programs for surplus, such as the cyclic program. And on this last slide, I'm really excited to share the latest update on our groundwater banking initiative. The chart shows both the goal of the $20 million for water purchases, as well as the estimated 23,000 acre feet target. On the left, in blue, is the water currently banked into storage, which is just shy of 5,700 acre feet, or 25% of our water storage goal. On the right, in green, is the 4.4 million currently invested, or 22% of our goal. Through the various agreements and partnerships authorized by the board, Western has banked enough water to serve over 11,000 households for 1 year. We're also working on additional opportunities with existing and new partners and looking to utilize programs available to continue cost-effectively purchasing and storing the water. With that, I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Are there questions?
Yeah, where's everybody landed on betting numbers for April?
They're not going to tell.
We're just betting against Ryan. I was around 50%.
Okay. Are you still?
Yeah, no, I'm not changing.
Okay, Ryan?
I originally said 45.
Okay. All right.
I got to say, I
No
like
number,
Craig's
Josh?
number better than
I'm
yours.
at 50 as well.
You're at 50?
So-
Okay, I'm at 45. I'm at 45. I think that's where we land.
Tim?
65.
65.
Oh, boy,
The optimist.
Tim. Oh,
Oh,
wow.
I'll take
Tim is
it.
really sticking his neck out
I
there.
do think we're going to break 50.
Okay. Okay, we'll see when at next meeting, huh?
You think so,
Hopefully
too?
we'll get a number. Okay.
Tammy's taking notes, so we'll
I'm
report
taking
back.
No.
I think Tim is the smartest person in the room, so.
So Tim at 65, and you guys
Oh.
are just plus 50. Got it.
Okay, all right.
I like it.
We're gonna see. Come on, Kevin, what's your number?
Normally I say $1 more than whatever Tim. My price is right.
Okay. All right.
Josh, can we go back to the local supply? That one. So this is, I just wanted to, it just dawned on me while Josh was presenting this, but if you look at Prado Dam, it says there's 19,000 acre feet, almost 20,000 acre feet, but it's only 9% full. So if we have above average rainfall wise and only 9% full, this actually, the graphic's a little misleading because the full is filling the entire Prado Dam, right? The 20,000 is actually, they have filled their water conservation pool. So that's as much authority as Orange County has and the Corps has allowed to fill the conservation pool. So it really should say full.
True.
Because they can only put 20,000 and hold it. And if you drive out the 71 and you look over there, you see a lot of water behind Prado Dam. And that's the maximum that they're allowed to hold. So we should probably, modify this graphic because we'll never fill, I hope the dam never fills, because it's all flood control. This is just a little sliver. And so then you go up to Seven Oaks, and this is what Ryan and Josh and the team are working on, and Western is funding this with Valley as a partnership for the FIRO program. And so the FIRO program, the hope is to have exactly what's happening at Prado happen up at Seven Oaks. So instead of only 3,000 acre feet sitting behind there, and they're basically just releasing all the water that comes, where Prado, they hold until they get to an elevation, and then they just match inflow with outflow. We want them to hold a bucket of water up there, and that's going to come, hopefully, out of the FIRO program. So on behalf of all of our parties in the judgment, we fought long ago for the rights to have water. We have half of the water for Western parties. I'm saying that wrong. We have half the water of all the water rights at Seven Oaks. We split it with Valley. But we don't have a program to actually capture water. So that was step 2. So now we're working on the program to capture water. So hopefully we'll end up with a pool back there so that when we have above average rainfall like we've had this year, it's indicated by the Seven Oaks pool. 3,200 is really low. You would expect much more water to be in there.
And if we're successful,
Excuse me? Yes, and a situation like what's happening right now is not great for it's good for the watershed because we have water in the watershed and all our groundwater basins are filling from the precipitation, but water that's being released from Seven Oaks, because there's not a pool there, goes downstream and it hits Prado, and Prado would capture it, but their pool's full. So it gets released and it is potentially going to the ocean. And so this is where the public gets frustrated because they see water flowing to the ocean, but Seven Oaks isn't full, and they would look at this graphic and say, Prado's not full. What's wrong with all you water people? Get your act together. So there's obviously a very significant negotiation because flood control is the primary mission of all these facilities, protecting life and property. We don't want to interfere with that. So we're just looking for little slices of water supply that will blend in with protecting the public's life safety.
and for this instance, because those are actually would be in series, this would be the first time in the nation that we'd have 2 dams operate on FIRO in conjunction. So it'd be very impressive and very good for our watershed.
Great. Thank you very much. Any other questions?
I was gonna ask for the video that you showed last time of Prado Dam, if someone could send that to me.
We can send that.
I loved it, I'm
Yeah,
still
that's a very good
amazed by
video.
it.
Orange County did a great job with their drone. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Anything else, Mr. General Manager?
Nothing for me.
Okay, thank you. Brings us to all our agency reports. SAPA has not met since we last met. Metropolitan.
So, what Craig didn't mention in his report, and he sent out, by the way, he sent out a very good email to us that was very detailed over how that broke down the negotiations and what the deal entailed for passing the budget. What he didn't share with you is that in the 20 years that I've been doing this, the budget packet for the board, for the entire board packet for the day, was over 13,000 pages. Okay? And so that included everything that was in the budget. It included all the projects that they were doing, an EIR state. I mean, it was a whole bunch. And so it was a huge lift to have to go through all that. So I wanted to extend a very heartfelt thanks to all the staff that broke out all the individual pieces, because it was literally impossible to be able to read all that stuff. Everybody had to take a component of it. We all had to share and run through it, put all the notes together, and then fight for what we wanted to fight for. So I just want to thank staff for helping me out with all that and providing me with all the detail and background and diving into some of these things a lot deeper than what I had the time or could even come close to reading in a short amount of time, because they literally did not release the budget and all of the backup information and everything until what, Friday? Yeah, Friday night. And we had to be ready to go.
Kevin had to stay up past his
Yeah.
bedtime on Friday.
For sure, for sure.
Which I thought was really admirable.
And I only got to 12,913 pages.
Right. So seriously. So, so kudos to staff for really stepping up and providing me with a lot of information that I just could not consume in that amount of time. It was just not humanly possible. So I just wanted to throw that out there first off. And then we did get a couple of things that I was really seeking. I went along with Three Valleys. Three Valleys made the motion at the budget to try to go for the higher percentage of ad valorem. And I ended up pulling my property tax bill for the ad valorem, and I pay $13 and change on the ad valorem. So to double this, we're not talking about breaking the bank, but what you are talking about is, when we talk about being equitable, talking about underserved communities, talking about disadvantaged communities, talking about all that, it's property owners that burden this greatly. And it's not the renters, the transient people that are moving around and having a hard time making ends meet. And so, whether or not that gets adjusted in their rents eventually or not down the road is a question to, I guess, of debate. But when you look at the percentage and you look at the budget gap, because ad valorem was specifically put in place to fund state water project costs that are $700 million, that we were only collecting just over $100 million for. So we're not even at, does this even take us to the half threshold with the collection? It doesn't, correct? So we still have a big gap of money that could be put in for our fixed costs, because whether we take all the water or not, we still are paying the $700 million on state water project cost. So that is a huge deal that we still need to figure out how we're going to do that. The fight is on now for the treated water costs, because that was even a bigger deal. Thankfully, we've got a lot of weight that's moving forward on that with other agencies that are also sharing the burden along with us to pay those higher costs on the treated water side. So we'll continue to fight for that, and hopefully we'll end with a good fight and make some progress on that movement, because that's really the next area of focus. I was happy about, and we got the compromise with cuts. So there's $18 million of cuts that's happening in the O&M overall per year on the budget. And my comment was, if we can squeeze more out of that and Met can find additional cuts without jeopardizing any of our health and safety stuff, any of the workforce, any of the essential stuff that we really need, then by all means try to find those cuts to see if we can even tick that number out further. Because I think it's really important. If we're asking all of our customers to conserve, I think we need to sharpen our pencil on what our overall costs are. And I understand the cost of construction has gone up, the cost of chemicals has gone up, the cost of labor has gone up, all of these things have gone up, but we've got to find a way to control our budget and cut corners on costs without compromising other things as much as we possibly can. So wanted to make sure we're doing about that. I still have a question, and I still haven't gotten a response from water sales that we're going out to seek and the discounted water that is going to be sold to make up that $60 million on the budget. and if we're eligible as a member agency to purchase that water and where it would come from, if it's coming from Mead, if it's coming from someplace else. But I still would really appreciate an answer from Metropolitan, and if we can swing something or paper transfers or something on that, right? To be able to get that, because we had allocated a lot of money, and we have the money to be able to do that. So if we can do something on that purchase, I certainly am all for that. And then obviously, I don't know if everybody got the same press release I did, and I could send that out, or I can forward that to board secretary who can send it out. Metropolitan did a press release on all of the LRP money that's being spent and all of the local projects that they're helping fund here. And I think there was 4 projects to get some money for that. So, well, you know, we continue to fund that.
Eastern
Eastern
is one of those.
benefited,
and
yes.
It's their project to extract water from around
North Paris Basin.
North Paris Basin, which we are a beneficiary of. We're a partner on that project, and that'll help alleviate rising groundwater at the base and provide a water supply for the base.
Right.
So we are direct beneficiaries of that project.
Right. So those are all good things, and I'm continue to ask the question on SB 366. I'm getting to be the squeaky wheel, and I'm hoping at some point they're gonna oil and grease that up and just pass what we need to pass on SB 366.
Thank you. We need that. We need
So-
a squeaky wheel. I'm a squeaky wheel, but I'm not a board member squeaky wheel at Metropolitan, so it's a little different. But one thing that Met has been waiting for was the official language, the final language to come out of the bill, which has now come out. So they can see that, and now they can make their determination if they're going to support. We certainly hope they're going to support.
Well,
But
and
that's what they've been waiting for. That's happened. That happened, Sarah, last week? I think last week it finally came out.
Yeah, so I continue to advocate on behalf of that bill and working with my colleagues to vote in the affirmative on supporting that language and getting Metropolitan as one of the 800-pound gorillas in the room on that to move that forward. So a lot going on in Met. I really appreciate Craig dialing in and spending a lot of time on this Camp for Water process and what the business modeling is. We really have to look at what the future holds, and we really need to have a hard discussion over if Pure Water is the right project to do with the amount of funding. Is it Sites Reservoir that's going to give us a lot more water for a lot less per acre foot on the cost? You have to realize that the cost has been upwards of $4,000 an acre foot coming out of Pure Water. Is that really the direction that we want to go? So more to come on that. I'm sure there's going to be a lot more discussion now as we have finished with this budget. I did ask for one of the alternatives, and one of the things that we were looking at the budget, especially with the treated water cost, is that we have a mid-budget review of what that looks like, and if we could have a conversation at that point in time after we've had some discussion, because there were a lot of people that chimed in on that, especially in the Northern Caucus, which we certainly are going to support and advocate for. So, so lots more to come on that. It's been a very interesting time up at Metropolitan. And at our budget, I forgot to bring, they put out all of their CIP and capital improvements and everything. So it's a huge book, and I'm happy to share that with anybody who'd like to flip through that. So I'll bring it at our budget workshop if you'd like to take a look at what has been approved in the budget. I think it was over 650 million, I believe is the number roughly on what they approved. So a lot is going to be happening at Metropolitan on projects. Yeah, that's a 2-year number, yes. So, there's my Met update.
Well, let me start by thanking our staff and you, Director Denstead, as our Metropolitan representative, for all the hard work that everybody put in to get us where we are at Met. We did want more ad valorem tax. We, and Director Denstedt argued for a tripling instead of a doubling, but getting a doubling of the ad valorem tax is a really big step. That was not on the horizon when Met started their budget discussions. It was just straight cost of water is going up. So we Western played a significant role in getting that accomplished, and it really is a very big accomplishment. 3 times would have been better, but that game is not over. It's going to be an ongoing look at that revenue source. And I personally anticipate it will get adjusted upward in the future. But anyway, thank everyone and congratulations. It was a lot of work. Chino Basin meets next week. Chino DeSalter Authority did meet. Their only items of business were to retroactively approve some expenditures for cleanup and repair costs after a water heater at the Chino DeSalter 2 facility ruptured and did some damage to walls and floors and those kinds of things. It was not a huge big deal, and the work is pretty well done now. But it did exceed the executive director's, the cost exceeded the executive director's signing authority, so it had come back to the board for approval. That was it there. Rikra,
Meet next week.
WRCOG,
We meet on May 6th.
Sarah.
It was canceled this month.
All right, Aqua Region 9.
Okay, Aqua Region 9, I do have a report. So we had a program that was hosted by IEUA last Friday. It was a very well-attended program. They did a tour of all of their facilities, and I heard rave reviews on that as I was in attendance but not able to walk the site. And I'll tell you what, we had a conversation and stayed after the program, and board president also was in attendance at this, but they had in their water quality lab an escape room that we participated in. So I think there were 7 of us in there, and we did an escape room, and they put a timer on us of 15 minutes to try to come up and solve the problems that they had put before us to unlock the room door to escape. And we made it in plenty of time. We had time left over, so it was all good, and it was a lot of fun. So very creative. It made you look at lab equipment and testing results and read through things and get the clues and do all this stuff. So it was really fun on their part just to get some activity going. So I just want to give props to IEUA for coming up with such a creative thing to do and get people engaged on a different level in a different way. So, and then conference is coming up in May, so we've got a couple of weeks to go to conference. It's going to be up in Sacramento, so I encourage all of you, if you are attending that conference, that Region 9's meeting will also take place, so I would invite you to come and attend our Region 9 meeting. The board will be there, and we're going to talk about a variety of different things. We won't have a program this go around, but we will have a program in the fall conference that will be happening. So I look forward to having those discussions and open to suggestions over what our fall program might be and what we're going to offer up, since we did such a cool thing last time. And we've gotten rave reviews over some of the tours that we've held and had. People are asking us, and now we're raising the bar, and everybody is trying to step up and come up with more creative ways, because ours has gotten the best response and the most kudos. So congratulations to all of our Region 9 participants and the people that volunteer their facilities to allow us to come in and tour them. It takes a lot of time, and it takes a lot of staffing, and it takes a lot of coordination, and we certainly appreciate those. So if you guys have a suggestion and want to come up with something for a program for fall conference for Region 9, I am open to suggestions, and we will accept all of those at the next meeting at that. And with that, that will conclude my Aqua Region 9 update.
Okay. Brings us to director's comments. Director Torres?
Yes. Last week I had a chance to attend the council meeting with the new council, the city of Riverside, as well as their reception afterwards, welcoming them. So I just wanted to take a second to welcome Councilmember Falcone, Councilmember Mill, and Councilmember Robillard to the city of Riverside. Yesterday, in last night's council meeting, they showed their worth. They voted against continuing their water conservation surcharge, which I know was something that residents were really looking forward to. So in the first time in the history of Riverside, they'll actually get a little bit of a decrease in their water bills. I had the chance to sit down with Assemblymember Jackson during his legislative update. Brought up SB 366, told them to pay attention, urged them to support it. I'm sure you've already met with him, but I did bring it to his attention, as well as he was looking for suggestions about the May revise. I brought up that water tends to not be in those revises in the last couple years or years. So I brought that to his attention sooner rather than later. I had a chance to speak at the WIRE graduation, which is women. It's basically an apprenticeship program for women that want to be in electrical work. And so that was interesting. A lot of them interested in water and doing electrical work in water agencies. So got their, got to speak to them about that. Earth Day's coming up on it's 4/22, but on 4/18, April 18th, there's going to be a tree planting at Casablanca Homeni Relief Services. They're going to plant avocado trees around the vicinity, all donated to the city and to the home. I wanted just to take a second to, I'm sure you've all heard, Director Gil Navarro passed away this last week, who was with San Bernardino Valley for a long time. Somebody that welcomed me into the water world when I was first elected, and so my thoughts and prayers are with him and his family. Lastly, just to give a closeout, I would call it, I guess, to the FPPC complaint that was lodged against me. That has been finalized. Most of the things, there was like a few complaints. Most of those were unfounded or found to be unfounded. And then one issue I needed to amend and fix was fixed, and so I was left with a warning rather than a penalty.
Great, thank you very much. Director Denstedt.
Thank you. I did forget to mention one thing, and what Director Torres said just reminded me. So I do have, on behalf of Metropolitan, I was given a Colorado River trip tour, and I will be taking people on that on Friday. This is very coveted trip, and we have very limited amount of seats. We have to share the trip with another director, so I'll be sharing that with a director from Beverly Hills, Barry Pressman, Dr. Barry Pressman. And on that tour, we have staff coming from Assemblymember Jackson's office. So we have a mix. I try to get people interested from all over our service area and coming from different angles and different perspectives. So we've got people coming from some of the cities, we've got people coming from UCR, we've got business members coming, we've got a group of attendees. So it's always great when we have those conversations because everybody asks some very good questions from their perspective and people get to bounce those off of each other. So I just wanted to circle back and share that because I forgot about that. So
Thank you.
too involved in the budget. Okay.
Director Risvi.
Last week I attended Women in Water in City of Corona, and it was all about AI and how to leverage that. And I learned a lot of things. I was very reluctant to use AI, but I used it. We did some branding exercises, and that was pretty cool. So really good, well-attended event at City of Corona. So I love those women in water events and get to meet, amazing women doing great work. So that's about it. Thank you.
Great. Couple of things, just a little follow-up on the tour of the Region 9 tour at IEUA. This was their headquarters building, which is physically immediately adjacent to a big sewage treatment facility. They are expanding and updating that facility now. They're adding about a third more capacity to it, or 50% more capacity to it. And that construction is ongoing. Some of the treated water that comes out of that facility goes into a wetland that's on the property. And that's used for a variety of purposes. But as wetlands do, it attracts lots and lots of birds. This is nesting season. And for the buildings that are under construction, they have to have netting over the windows and the doorways so that no birds get inside the building, because if one does and builds a nest, they have to stop construction until nesting season is over. So they are quite careful to keep the birds outside the buildings. And let's see. I also attended not the council meeting, but the reception for the newly elected council members and the re-elected two officials. Council member Steve Hemingway was re-elected in Ward 7, and Mayor Patricia Locke Dawson was re-elected as mayor. So 3 of 7 council members are new at Riverside, though. That always makes for an interesting adjustment. And so we have some people on the learning curve. And the last thing is, last week, Director Torres had a birthday. Happy birthday. And that's all that I had. We have some information items in the packet. Our next meeting is May the 1st, and we will adjourn, and sort of in honor of Director Galliano, who liked short meetings. This was a pretty short and efficient meeting, so here's to you, Don. We're adjourned.
Thank you.